Each year, the sea level rises,
setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control.
10 hottest years ever measured.
Climate change is our single greatest security threat.
You are failing us.
Governments know it. Even the United States military knows it. None of this is rhetoric, and none of it is hysteria. It is fact.
House on fire.
Welcome back to the House on Fire podcast, powered by the Clio Institute. I'm your host, Dania Toledo, coming to you from ground zero of the climate crisis, Miami, Florida. And I think that's a perfect segue into today's guest because he's a true Miami original. He's an author, an environmentalist, and a lover of Miami's mangroves. I also think he's a pretty funny guy, so I hope you all enjoy this one.
My name's Otazo, and I do far too many things. Let's get into it.
Okay.
I am an author. I wrote a very silly book called The Miami Creation Myth.
Mm-hmm.
I am an environmental activist. I have removed 23,175 pounds from South Florida's mangroves and other coastal ecosystems.
That's awesome.
It's way too much.
Way too much.
Yes.
Absolutely, I agree.
And I have my own public relations firm. So that's what I do to make money.
Oh, nice, nice. So, you know, the solid job that lets you do everything else.
Sure, yeah.
All right, awesome. So, considering everything you do, we want to start by talking about your project, hauling trash out of mangroves. How did that start?
That started about 6 or 7 years ago. I'm losing track. And so I grew up in Miami, and I love our different natural environments, so specifically the mangroves. Barracuda Preserve, in particular, on the northern coast of Key Biscayne. So I would go into this incredible habitat, and I would be seeking some sort of solace and calm and peace and whatever. And every time, inevitably, I would walk in, I'd walk out furious.
Because so much for your solace.
Yeah, no, none of that. So it was because I literally couldn't take a step anywhere without stepping on a piece of trash.
Oh, no.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm an extremely stubborn person, and nobody was doing anything about it in that particular area. So one day I just started picking up trash, and I haven't stopped since. So here I am.
Awesome. And so since you started, how would you say your project has evolved over time? Or has it even evolved? Has it just been the same old, just you going there to pick up trash? Or, like,
the mechanics are the same.
Okay.
You pick up trash, you put it in a bag, and you take the bag out. But the project has drastically changed. So basically, it's turned into a long-running public relations campaign. Okay. So people will see the videos that I post online of picking up trash. They'll go, oh, what's this guy doing? And that gives me the opportunity to begin to educate them on the scale of this problem in South Florida and globally. And I will speak to literally anybody who will have me. So I've talked to a whole bunch of different colleges and universities, everything from MDC to UM, Clemson, Cornell, I'm sure there's more, and then middle and high schools here in South Florida. So I'll go in and I'll talk to their students about this work and why they should care about the mangroves, and more broadly than that, how they themselves can use some of the lessons I've learned over these years to start their own grassroots movements on whatever they care about.
Oh, that's awesome. So you started off by telling us the amount of trash you collected, which, if you wouldn't mind me asking, can you say that number one more time?
23,175 pounds that I've picked up in my cleanups and with my groups, but I also partner with all sorts of different organizations, and I help their
So that number
cleaners.
Could be more. Well, combining everyone's efforts.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But like when I work on somebody else's project,
You
like
don't-
that's their stuff.
No, absolutely understood. So in all those 23,000 and so pounds of trash that you've picked up, what have been some of the most memorable objects you remember picking up?
Oh boy. There's some weird, like literally everything you can imagine.
No, I believe you. I just need to hear something.
Sure, let's get into it.
Okay.
A VR headset. Yeah, no, it's gonna get weirder. A 15 stress. Legit.
Oh my god.
This 200-pound block of latex that I later found out during World War II, a German U-boat off Miami Beach sunk this cargo vessel, and it was full of these latex rubber blocks, and so they just wash ashore every now and then.
And that's how you found out about it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Let me think. A lot of used condoms, a lot of clothes, way too much underwear, the occasional needle.
Okay.
Let me think. What else? A body bag. No body. Convection oven, microwave oven, car batteries, tons of tires, you name it.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like the way you started was so much more wild than I had expected, and then everything else was just kind of like, I can see people throwing that away, which you shouldn't.
Don't do it, people.
Don't do it. And so considering all of this came from you picking up trash around these mangroves, can you tell us why mangroves are so important to our ecosystem and why it is that we should be protecting them in the first place?
They are a keystone habitat, super important. So first of all, they protect the coastline from storm surges, from hurricanes. They act like as this natural giant sponge that soaks up all this water as it comes ashore. So all that energy coming in with those waves isn't soaked up by, say, our buildings or our roads or whatever, but rather by the mangroves. So they're like this protective layer around our coastline to begin with. But also, basically all the reef fish that you see offshore have their juvenile phases in the mangroves. So, whatever you see offshore, tuna, swordfish, snapper, whatever, they're living in the mangrove roots because that's where they can find protection from predators. And also, basically all the birds that you see along our coastline, whether it's brown pelicans or egrets or ospreys or anything, the mangroves serve as this massive rookery for them. So that's where they'll lay their nests or build their nests, lay their eggs. That's where their fledglings will, grow up essentially.
That's awesome. And it really just goes to show that everything is connected.
Mm-hmm.
The mangroves protect us. Mangroves also protect the little fishies, the birds. They're so awesome. They're so cool.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is a long-term solution to trash in Miami's mangroves?
I'm really glad you asked that question because if we're relying on people like myself and many, many others to go into the mangroves or along the beach or other habitats to pick up the trash there, we've lost. Because think of trash as basically like a stream. So where I'm at is at the very, very end of the stream. Midstream, you have most of the trash that we have in Miami is sourced from the street. So people will throw their trash away, not think about it. Then when it rains, that trash goes into the gutter, that goes straight into Biscayne Bay, and that goes out into the mangroves or just the ocean. And then farther up, so we can implement certain policy prescriptions at that level. So you can install gutters, or basically like a framework over the gutters so the trash doesn't fall in, or you can put trash traps they're called outflows, basically where the water goes into the bay, basically just giant nets to catch the trash. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But you need to go farther upstream. And you need to go to the individuals consuming the plastic. So like the state of Florida has a law that doesn't allow counties or cities to pass, for example, plastic bag bans. So that needs to be repealed.
Of course,
first and
Florida
foremost.
does.
Yes, of course, it's Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't at a local level institute any policies really that would mitigate this problem at the source. And beyond that, we need to go to the manufacturers of the plastic, and we need to replace this material. Again, plastic by itself is not evil. It has its uses, but the widespread use that it has now means that a ton of it, tons and tons and tons of it, falls into the ocean. So we need to be replacing some of that with either biodegradable materials or inert materials.
Correct. And also, like you said, plastic in and of itself isn't the biggest issue. So much of it is the fact that most plastic produced is going to be single use.
Yes.
And that is the major problem when it comes to plastic production, just generally. So it's so sad to hear that really locally we can't do too much considering the policies at hand on a state level. Mm-hmm. But definitely our manufacturers could be doing a lot more to help us with that. You carried a backpack of trash in the Miami Marathon.
That's right.
tell me about it. And where is this backpack now?
Well, it was terrible. I definitely don't suggest you or anybody you know try it.
I wouldn't.
Good.
How heavy was it?
35 pounds.
Absolutely not.
Good. And I walked 26 miles with that thing. And I did that to raise funds for Miami Waterkeeper, an organization that I love.
Miami Waterkeeper is awesome.
Yes. Shout out to them. And yeah, so basically I did that for two reasons. One is to raise these funds for this organization, but two is also to literally take this problem out of an area that most Miamians never go into, like, and expose as many Miamians to it as possible. And I figured, there's tens of thousands of people
Running.
exactly, or watching this thing from the sidelines. So this is a good opportunity to do that. So yeah, I strapped that onto my back and I did it. And then the next year, I built a 135-pound trash cart shaped like a fish. And learning from my previous experience, I recruited a team of 7 people to help me pull it the length of the marathon. And so those two fundraisers together raised about $30,000.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Thank you. But the bag is currently in History Miami Museum. It's on display.
Willie, look at that. You can go see it yourself.
You can, yes.
That's awesome. And how big is this backpack? I'm trying to get a visual
Too
in
big.
my head.
It's like, I don't know, for people that aren't seeing this, it's probably like 3.5, 4 feet wide by like 2.5 feet tall.
And they make these backpacks?
Nobody made.
You made
this
this
yes.
backpack?
I
This is more
I made the
interesting now.
backpack with my friend Dania Toledo, who's a designer and an architect.
Okay.
And yeah, we basically took a camping bag frame, and then we got like the rest of it is just material that we found. It's basically like a plastic L-shaped base, and then we got a bunch of rope that we found, and we built like this net, and then we just shoved a bunch of trash in there.
That's awesome. And also a fantastic arts and crafts project.
Yes.
You just spoke at the Miami Book Fair.
I did.
Is it true that you showed up dressed as a croqueta?
I did.
Why?
A couple of reasons. First and foremost, so it was a panel that I was on with Mario Riza, who wrote Disposable City, Danny Rivero, who is a local journalist at WLRN, and Caroline Cabrera, who works at O Miami, and it was about telling Miami stories. And so, first and foremost, I just wanted to make people laugh. It was a panel about Miami stories, so like it just felt natural to go as a croqueta.
Nothing is more Miami than a croqueta.
Exactly. Yes, I was a jamon croqueta, croqueta de jamon, I should say. Obviously, it's the best croqueta.
It's the best one, but I'm not gonna lie. I have tried a spinach croqueta once, and it was really good. For the vegan folks out there,
I won't
just
hate
so
on it.
You know.
I've had it too. A cheese
Awesome.
croqueta's gonna be good. I mean, you have bacalao. We won't get into it.
Okay.
The point is, yes, I was dressed as a croqueta, and I was talking about very serious stuff, but in a very silly manner, because I wanted people to listen to me.
And that works.
Yeah.
It tends to yield the most, shall I say, like positive response.
Yeah.
And at this book fair, the Miami Book Fair, you said that you wanted Miami to be a sort of living fortress. Could you explain that a bit more?
Yes. So we have several different threats posed by climate change in Miami. One of them, the most acute, the one that could happen literally next year and destroy the city, is storm surge from hurricanes. And we were discussing some, what mangroves, for example, do to mitigate that. But the way I foresee it is that you have, you turn Miami into like a fortress, essentially, a living fortress, like you said, but with layers of defense. The outermost layer would be the Florida Barrier Reef. So healthy coral reefs can seriously slow down storm surges. And then between the reef, that's about 5 miles offshore, and the actual shoreline, a couple miles out, you could build a series of oyster reefs, again, to slow down that storm surge. And then onshore, you would build depending on what area you're in, like already some areas you have naturally occurring mangroves, but say like the seawall in Bayside Marketplace, you just have a seawall there. So you would replace that with what's called a living seawall or living shoreline. And so it would be more layers. So like the outermost layer, it could be like a series of, or like a, basically mangroves you could set up there. You could also incorporate oyster beds directly into that seawall. And you could build it in a way so that you like can incorporate salt marshes into it as well, and a breakwater, a natural breakwater. So again, you have multiple layers that would be slowing down that storm surge, so that when in 2017, when Irma hit Miami, you had that famous picture of a woman sitting on a fire hydrant in the middle of Brickell, and with water basically like a foot and a half deep in the middle of Miami's like financial district, so that you can stop that from happening in the future.
Absolutely. And we've talked all about this Miami Book Fair, but we haven't even touched on your book. So let's talk about it.
Let's talk about
Miami Creation Myth.
Yeah.
Describe the story for our listeners, and more specifically, explain how the book deals with environmental concerns and climate change.
Sure. So the book is called The Miami Creation Myth. It's satire, it's humor. Basically, if your readers are familiar with how, or not the readers, your listeners are familiar with how the Greeks or the Romans, the Egyptians, the Norse all have their pantheons of gods and goddesses. Their legends.
Love all of those.
Excellent.
All
right.
You're talking to the right demographic.
You're my target demographic.
Exactly.
Clearly. So I did that bit for Miami. So this is a parallel universe that I wrote about. It's literally just Miami-Dade County. At the Broward County border is a giant chasm, and no one knows what's on the other side. Turns out it's a land.
Broward doesn't exist.
Exactly. It's a land called Grinlandia, and it's a frozen tundra.
Okay.
And yeah, so like my creator god, Pachango the creator, wakes up on a divine Ping Pang Pung, and he creates the universe, and there's a god of Chisme named Achepe, and there's a goddess of the Everglades called Maris Laces, and a goddess of the sky called Yamilet, and it's a big, for lack of a better term, a helenge, for those who know Cuban slang. So the first half of the book is all these standalone myths. So how was the universe created? How did people come to Miami? There's one on real estate, undocumented immigration, all sorts of stuff. Then the second half is called the Cafecito Odyssey. And so my hero twins, Marta and Cuquita, who are named after my grandmothers, have to, thank you, they have to go to the different communities or the different kingdoms of Miami to collect the constituent parts of Cafecito to wake everybody up. So that's basically the book. And how does environmentalism tie into it?
Yes.
Two ways. So there's the longest chapter in the book is when they go to the Everglades, essentially. And this wasn't a book that I just wrote by myself. So it's written in 11 different languages and dialects, with English footnotes. So Spanish, English, Portuguese, or Miccosukee, Hebrew, you name it, it's in there.
That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But that meant that I had to collaborate with members of all these different communities in order to be able to portray their experiences authentically. And one of those was the Everglades chapter. So I worked with, her name is Cheyenne Kippenberger. She is a member of the Seminole tribe of Florida, and she's Miss Seminole USA and Miss Indian World. And she's
amazing.
a freaking powerhouse. So she helped me write that chapter authentically from her community's experience. And part of that is that the twins go out to the Everglades and they're exposed to all of the different threats that this habitat faces. So everything from invasive species to sugarcane burns to rising sea levels to redirecting the flow of water out of the southern Everglades and marine trash. That's all in there.
Oh, that's not awesome is the word. I tend to say that a lot, but it's really cool to see this sort of like harsh information be put in such a digestible format.
That's
that
the point.
I feel like I, as a kid, loved reading all the myths, all the creation myths. So I know kids could probably get a kick out of it, but I would too.
Yeah.
And I am no longer a kid if it wasn't a parent. So that book is awesome. Where can we go get it?
You can get it at Books and Books, Barnes & Noble, Miracle Mile, and FIU. Where else? At Sweat Records and Martha of Miami. And it's on Amazon.
Books and Books, guys. Shop locally.
For sure.
So your Instagram meme account for the book is amazing.
Thank you.
You posted recently about a Miami climate change denier who can no longer deny climate change, which is fantastic. Can you explain the meme? I know that defeats the whole point of the meme, but the listeners have not seen it yet.
Yeah.
So
over the meme is text that says Miami climate deniers. And then the meme itself is this guy that said, it says, oh, that was a problem from future me, and now I am future me. And underneath it says, when your driver, why is my driveway flooded at high tide? That sounds so unfunny when you say it out loud.
You should go look at it. But for the people, I assume people are gonna listen to this on their commute or whatnot. Don't look at your phone while you're driving. So
Right.
This is our best attempt. But definitely go check out that meme. It's awesome. And we're gonna cycle back to your book, because what in the world is Mount Trashmore?
Mount Trashmore. Mount Trashmore is one of two mountains, the other one being Mount Tropical Park in the book. Mount Tropical Park being Mount Olympus, essentially. It's the holiest of the mountains.
As it should be.
Yes, but is this a family-friendly podcast?
Sure.
Yes? Okay. Well,
You can go ahead.
okay, all right. So,
We've been given the okay.
in the first chapter, the creation of the universe, basically all the gods get into this giant war with each other. And then at the end of it, Bachango, the creator, sends them off to different places, basically to separate them from fighting again. So one of them, he sent Achepe, the god of Chisme, over to Mount Trashmore. So that's where he lives.
Of course, it's where he lives.
Yes. But also, there's three other houses that at the far ends of the universe. One is Casa al Carajo, which is way south. Another one is Casa Culo, which is way to the west. And then the other one is Casa Pinga, which is way north.
Amazing. And all of these are so aptly named. Casa al Carajo is most definitely to the south.
Yeah.
Most
You just came
definitely.
from there.
Exactly. I would know. So what is your advice to local Miamians, especially those involving the environment and being involved in the climate crisis?
Yeah. My advice is that you have everything you need in order to make a real positive impact on... You want me to talk to camera one?
Absolutely love
right.
for you to talk to the people.
Camera one, listen to me. You have everything you need to make a real positive impact on any environmental issue that is important to you. It doesn't matter if it's climate or conservation or what have you. Basically, all you need is your phone. The only reason I'm on this podcast is because when I went to clean the mangroves, I had a GoPro and I put it on a tripod and I recorded it. That's literally all you need. You can start a grassroots movement yourself. You can join a grassroots movement. You can help propel it forward. And that's what I tell everybody. You don't need any degrees. I'm not a scientist. I've learned this over the years talking to a whole bunch of experts. But it's like the anti-cynicalness that you hear every day where nothing matters and everything is screwed. You can make a difference.
You heard it here, folks. And so what would you say is next for you work-wise? Work-wise. What else will Andrew Otazo do next?
Who knows?
Gosh.
I've done so many things. So just to give you a little bit of background on what I've done, I went to West Point out of high school. Then I graduated from UM. I worked at the U.S. State Department. I worked at the Harvard Business School as a research associate. I was an assistant to former Mexican President Felipe Calderon. I worked on policy in Capitol Hill. I was the executive director of this organization called the Cuba Study Group. I've worked in a couple of different public relations agencies, and now I'm doing this. So I have no idea what I'll do in 5 years. What I'll be working on specifically, but I have plans to write 2 more books.
Oh,
Yes.
will they fall under the same universe?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's going to be a trilogy.
Oh my gosh, world building.
Yes, exactly.
I will go get this book right now. You don't even understand. It is the next stop after this.
Awesome. So that's the plan.
Awesome. And so then what would you say is next for Miami?
Next for Miami.
Climate-wise.
We have 2 options. either we all get our stuff together and actually build up the infrastructure and the community that we need. So like again, we can harden our coastline, right? But if we don't do something about climate gentrification,
Absolutely.
if we don't do something about the fact that there are people like right now, but first of all, Miami is the most rent burdened city in the United States.
I'm sorry, the most what?
Rent burdened city. So
Oh,
people
okay.
spend the highest percentage of their paychecks on rent.
I can confirm.
Yeah, same here. So, you know, if we spend, you look at the Brickell skyline, you look at trillions of dollars worth of office buildings and condos, and if we spend, another, I don't know, billions of dollars hardening that area, and then doing nothing about the fact that Little Haiti and Alapata and Opalaka and all these other neighborhoods are being, like, the residents of those neighborhoods historically are being pushed out and there's nowhere left for them to live, then, Miami can be either A, underwater, if we don't do anything about it, B, like in a gentrifier's opulent wasteland where, it's just a city for the ultra rich, and this is a service economy. I have no idea where people like who's gonna drive them around, who's gonna do their dry cleaning, who's gonna serve them at restaurants. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Or 3, we can actually bring in members of these different communities and organizations and actually build a more equitable city, build a better planned city than the mess that we have right now.
Completely agreed. And to the whole point of climate gentrification, and even your book really is a reflection of what Miami is. And with climate gentrification playing a massive role in how our communities are being impacted, that also plays a role in the kind of Miami we will see surviving in the next, say, 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
It may not be the same Miami that we know now that you see in your book. So it's honestly such an important part of Miami's future is getting these communities involved and allowing for them to stay and continue to bring what they bring to Miami, which is our culture and so much of the stuff that makes us unique from any other place in the world. No other place is like Miami.
Yeah.
You like it or you don't, but no other place is like Miami. Is there anything else you would like to just lay out there? I think I'm done with
To camera 1?
to any camera.
No.
Whatever else you'd just like to say.
I am a huge fan of Cleo.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Giant fan of the work that you do. It's super important. I'm a stan.
Oh.
Yes. I don't know, man. I feel like in the next 15, and not even 15 to 20 years, because it rained here a day last week.
Was it last week or was it?
Was
today is what? Tuesday. So yes, last week.
It was last week, and the whole city came to a stop.
Yeah.
Everything was flooded. We need to, if we don't come together, first of all, no one's gonna do this for us.
Absolutely.
Like, there isn't a politician, there isn't a policymaker, the federal government, the state government isn't gonna show up in Miami and be like, all right, guys, here's our plan. Let's go do it. Let's fix the city. No, that's not gonna happen. We're gonna have to do it ourselves. And that means that it's not just gonna be any one community. It's not just gonna be scientists doing it. It's not just gonna be private enterprise doing it. It's not gonna be the government. It's not gonna be civic organizations. Everyone needs to come together and do this together, or we're all screwed.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on House on Fire. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And that's it for today's episode of House on Fire. We hope you enjoyed our chat with Miami's own Andrew Otazo, who has not only literally cleaned up tons of trash for Miami's mangroves, but he's not afraid to dress up like a croqueta. This episode is hosted by me, Dania Toledo, and is produced by Michael Landsberg and Ryan Ners of Unicorn Fire Studios. The intro music is produced by the Microscopic Orchestra. If you're digging what we do here at House on Fire, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us a lot. And if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to leave us a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so that you get notified whenever we drop a new episode. And stay tuned, because we got a lot of fantastic guests coming. including Miami's world-renowned climate scientist. And we'll see you next time on House on Fire.